this is Kimberly.
And this is Kristen, and this is the Murder and Myths February reaction episode, where we will discuss the stories of Alfreda Neck and Brynhild and Sigurd from episode 1, A Mighty Flame, and Isawa and the Five Brothers from episode 2, Rub-a-Dub-Dub, Thanks for the Grub.
So if you guys remember from my episode 1, A Mighty Flame, we discussed Alfreda and how she was found in the basement of the police station, burned on the furnace. And so, you know, she was locked inside. There was all these, like, she was seeing visions, her spectral lover, the red hand. It was all this, like, different things happening. And then it was like, were they having, you know, was she having an affair? Was she not having an affair? Was it with a man? Was it with a woman?
Right.
There was just a bunch of things happening and speculation and, you know, it was kind of a roller coaster ride of what the heck.
It was. I think it's funny that she's, I don't know, maybe having an affair with this police officer. At the very least, she's meeting with him for classes, and I'm air quoting that. And so she's found in the boiler room of the police station, which is locked. And it's like, oh, we're just going to glance over the fact that she, you know, had this affair with the police officer. It's not a bit, that had nothing to do with this at all whatsoever.
You know, and it's one thing I didn't get to mention in the podcast was the description of the actual furnace itself, which you can also find pictures online, and we'll post this up on our website too, under like our story heading.
Yeah, our show notes for this episode.
God, yeah, here we go. So happens we don't edit. And like, it looks like a giant Dalek. You know, if anyone watches Doctor Who, you'll know it's this large, probably 6-7 foot tall creature. And the furnace had like just a very small opening to it where, you know, you would,
like a grate.
Yeah, like a grate, essentially. Now, in order for her to get into this, she had to have been picked up and like held there. I mean, just by looking at the picture, you knowing she was a relatively small person, there was just no way to just stand up on your tippy toes and like reach in and be burned in the manner she was. So
especially like your feet and your legs. Like, what are you doing? Like a handstand? You're pole vaulting into this furnace opening?
It's so crazy because there's just a lot of like unspoken things, and it's a shame that like all the evidence went missing and everything else, because it would have been interesting to see what may have happened to her. I mean, the cop who she was involved with had an alibi that night. He was laid up from like a broken ankle, you know, and he had medical records. So it's like, was it a police cover-up? Did he have people that, you know, I mean, was it a corruption? You know, I mean, there's a lot of different things, like slippery slopes we can obviously go out under, but it was just unfortunate that we had, you know, Alfreda, who seems like she was a relatively intelligent, smart, you know, very open-minded girl for her time, and, you know, it was kind of just all
came to this terrible end with no resolution.
Yeah, and like her family didn't believe that she could have done it. There was just so much evidence that, you know, bloody handprints, bloody footprints all around the area that weren't hers. So it's, you know, we'll never actually, I don't think, ever solve the crime of like what happened to this poor person. So it's,
I think it's pretty interesting, you know, that they were like, you know, it was part of a ritual and she burned herself. Because I mean, there's definitely some, you know, evidence or cases where people, you know, in spiritual trances or religious fervors like that can do some pretty incredible things that you would think a normal human being just isn't capable of doing. But I just don't see enough of that in this case that it was really, we could claim that as the real reason why she I don't think she really burned herself for her astral lover.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like when I found the letters, the one is like, you know, there's a fight amongst friends, if you will. And I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time, but it's like, I don't see me writing to you and almost, I mean, it was like almost a very romantic, there was something involved, if that makes sense. Like with her female friend.
Agreed.
And then the letter from, you know, the mysterious honey girl letter, I call it, That is definitely very like it's a personal, like
Yeah.
they obviously knew.
That is not a platonic relationship. There's something definitely more there, I think.
Even if it was like emotional, physical, whatever the type of love it was, it just seemed interesting that it was like, we got to keep this secret. I shouldn't be writing this letter. Like, I don't know. Like, there was some sort of thing, and it almost, I don't know. I always am like, that's a note to a lover who you know you're doing something you shouldn't, but like, we're just going to keep, how do we continue this without being found out and out there? Yeah, and it just, I don't know.
Did they ever... I know they interviewed the girl, I can't remember her name, I apologize, for the one she wrote the letter to.
Yeah.
Did she have an alibi?
No.
Did they question her on whether she had an alibi that night?
See, and that's what's really strange about that is a lot of the stories that when I looked into it, my sources, there's a book called The Furnace Girl, which you can find that someone wrote that's just on this case. Mm-hmm. And there's also newspapers.com, which is a plethora resource of like...
That's a rabbit hole for rabbit holes, man.
Yeah, if you guys want a rabbit hole to go down, you're going to search everything. Like, it's like old school Google yourself. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Or your family.
Yes. Highly recommend that.
But it's interesting because there wasn't a lot on her friend. And so they never claimed that she did an alibi or there was actually any investigation towards her other than we were friends, we're not friends anymore. And it's like none of her letters that they found in evidence were signed. It was all like back and forth, meet me here, I'm mad at you, I'm not mad at you, I love you, I don't love you. And it, so this whole poor case is just all over the place. So it's left open-ended, and I don't think they'll ever find a resolution.
Like so many of those like cold cases from so long ago when you weren't even at that point thinking about even collecting evidence for forensic analysis like down the road. That just wasn't a thought that you had. I think, a lot of those will kind of become at some point, I think, the folklore or even the basis of the mythology that we tell in, 100, 200, 300 years from now.
I mean, even if we look back into like the Victorian age, which is something I would love to delve into in one of our episodes, a lot of times, especially in London, there was during the 1800s when people would get murdered or killed. I mean, apparently that time Victorian age in London was just a murder crime riddle. Yeah. People who were renting the houses would get killed, and in order for the renters to get money back, they would charge essentially admission to walk through these crime scenes, around the bodies, around the victims, to try to, because they knew, I'm losing rent. I'm probably not going to get much rent back because someone just got killed in here.
Right.
But it's like they destroyed all the evidence. And I think, again, they weren't thinking about it, and like you were saying, in the long term. And I think even in this situation, all the evidence that was collected was gone.
Which is just like, I don't know, that's just, for me, that's further, and I don't want to assume that the cops did anything here, but it's just like, if you're gonna try to piece this trail out a little bit, that's just another like little suspicious check mark in the box of police cover-up or police involvement here, that all this evidence has gone missing.
I know, and I don't know what the time frame the evidence is kept. I believe it was relatively recent, within the last decade, that they went to go back and look in this case. So it was, all the stuff was gone. And so I don't think they'll ever, unfortunately, find resolution for Alfreda.
Yeah, poor Alfreda.
I know.
Her story lives on.
It does.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah. And so, again, it wasn't a story that I had heard it a long time ago, and I thought this would be a great opening episode for us to kind of go over maybe something we haven't heard a lot of.
Yeah.
And so I think that's
it was definitely not a case that I had heard, and I was like really excited to kind of hear that fire component to it, because again, like I mentioned in the podcast, there is a lot of stories involving fire in mythology, just because it's fire has such a duality with human civilization, and that it's absolutely needed. I mean, it's what we can cook food, we can keep warm, it helps us, even in like Africa, you can, burn termites nests to keep mosquitoes away, or you're burning fire to keep predators away. So it was very, I think, essential to our survival as early humans, but also very, very destructive. So it kind of has that dual nature here. And I
absolutely
was immediately like, okay, I love Norse mythology. It's not the mythos I'm most familiar with. I definitely think my comfort level lies with Egyptian myth. But I wanted to kind of do something, let's delve into the Norse myths here for the first episode. And of course, Brynhild and Sigurd was kind of where I was at. The fire of her castle or mountain keep, however you want to describe it, her hall, completely surrounded by flames, which no man can cross. And she, in a little bit of defiance to Odin, the All-Father, is like, okay, you're not gonna let me be a shield maiden. In some versions of the story, she is a Valkyrie of Odin's, but she's like, I'm gonna listen to you. You're Odin. I'm gonna do what you decreed, but I'm gonna put my own spin to it. So if you're saying that I have to marry, I'm going to marry the best, most fearless warrior that's alive. And so there's that test of who's gonna come through these flames, and then ultimately, at the end, there's that lot of betrayal that happens with Sigurd, and then Brynhild is like, you're gonna die, which I know, like I would say in a 21st century modern understanding of morality and things, we kind of go like, that was pretty harsh, like you're gonna kill him because you didn't get to marry him. Where in at least like Norse culture or Viking culture, however you want to frame it, your word, your bond, your oaths were very, very, very important.
Absolutely,
and you didn't want to be an oath breaker. It was a horrible, horrible thing to do. Now, whether Sigurd was responsible for breaking that oath or not, there's some question there. On the first read through, you're probably like, no, he was tricked. He was tricked by the queen. He drank the poisoned mead, and there we go. But Brynhild gives him that knowledge to how to avoid drinking cursed or poisoned mead. Like, Sigurd, you were specifically told what you needed to do, and you didn't listen.
He just like completely ignored. It's like, it's all the signs are there.
Right.
Like, just, this is what, and he's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. No one's gonna, I'm the greatest and mightiest warrior. No one's going to come at me with treachery or betrayal. And it's like, dude, you're rich. You killed the dragon Fafnir. You have all of his gold. Like,
you're just a beacon for death.
Right, exactly. You're also a Volsung. Like, dude, your family line is just nothing but like vengeance killings. Like, come on, bro.
I think that's the funny thing with when I've read like Grecian mythology in school growing up, and it was always like, red flag, red flag, red flag. And it's like, nah, I'm just gonna, that's just not for me. And you're like, okay. And then you have the tragedy if you...
Yeah. It's always like, I'm the hero, nothing bad can happen to me. Dude, you're the hero, something bad always happens to you.
Yeah, see, maybe I don't know. It's like that whole thing of like old school game players where you're used to like retaining those 3 lives and not just regenning when you die every time.
Right?
It's like that's the hero mentality of those. Like,
it's so funny. It's so true. It's so true.
But it's interesting, like the fire connection. How you mentioned fire brings us life. Mm-hmm. It can bring us protection. It can bring us death, and it's all kind of that balance that we need with, I guess, elements in nature in that way. And I don't know, it was like you have that tragic love story where you're rooting for and then
like, no.
Yeah.
And you even see that life of the, that those 3 elements of the fire in the story of Brynhild and Sigurd. It's like, she has that fire around her fortress. It is in a sense for protection.
Yeah.
I mean, it is keeping the unworthy from entering her hall and waking her from that sleep. It's, it is protecting her in that sense. Odin hits her with that sleep thorn. She's out cold. It's kind of the origins of Sleeping Beauty. And then Sigurd breaks through that fire, the one who's worthy. And so out of that first meeting, if you remember, Sigurd and Brynhild do have a child named Oslog. So there's that life component. That fire brought that life together. And then, of course, at the end of the story, at least Brynhild and Sigurd's end of that story, he's placed upon the funeral pyre, and then Brynhild, who actually I didn't tell this part in the story because I was a little concerned about time, which is something I realized didn't need to be that concerned about.
Right.
But she actually stabs herself in her, through her chest, possibly into her heart. But she suffers. She before she throws herself on that flame to die with Sigurd. So she's so just grief-stricken and upset about what's gone on and what's happened in her life that she not quite seppukus herself, but she's putting that sword in. She's fallen upon that blade.
I mean, it was complete guilt, almost, or was it just that her pain was so much that maybe it was she doesn't feel that she's, you know what I mean? She's such grief-stricken that she doesn't feel it, but wants.
There's a couple of different viewings on that. One of it is, I think the romantic love story is that, she's so grief-stricken that she needs to join Sigurd in this death. Kind of from my limited knowledge of Norse mythology, murder wasn't quite illegal in the same sense that we have here in the United States. You could murder someone, and as long as you didn't try to hide it. So let's say me and Kim got into a fight, and I take my sword and accidentally decapitate her, or purposefully decapitate her, whatever the case may be. As long as I presented myself to her family, and I'm like, hey, so Kim and I were fighting and I killed her and I'm letting you know, and her family could accept to place upon me a weregild or a man price. So they would say, okay, this is what Kim's life was worth, and you can pay this, I don't want to say bounty, but you could pay this fine, and the murder would be accepted, and then there wouldn't be this vengeance necessarily that would need to go on in perpetuity, in theory. So I almost kind of see as this, almost as Brynhild, in some sense, maybe paying that man price or that weregild with her own life.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's I also think it's funny you didn't use a hypothetical friend. I'm okay. That's fine.
I mean, it could have been hypothetical, Kim. We don't know.
Air quote.
Yeah.
No, but that's interesting though, because if you put it in that perspective, then she essentially paid her price to be with him forever, and it's that tragic romance.
Yeah. I kind of like to think of her almost, in the sense that she was or could be considered a Valkyrie or was a Valkyrie in certain. I believe it's in the pro. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I believe it's in the pro Zeta, where she's a Valkyrie. I think I actually got that completely wrong. In one of the versions, she is a Valkyrie, and so I almost like to see her as, in her death. She is now the Valkyrie that is carrying Sigurd to Odin's hall. And
so the Valkyries, just because I don't think I was familiar with exactly that term until we had talked about it kind of off mic, I guess. Can you just go into a little bit about that? Because for me, it almost seems like they're almost an angelic guardian. But not really.
Yeah, they can kind of be seen that way. They're usually, or they can be depicted with wings, at certain points in time. But really, the Valkyries were human women that were responsible, directed by Odin to scour the battlefield after a big war, after a big battle, to find those worthy men and basically carry them to Valhalla, to his hall, where they would basically, for eternity, until Ragnarok, until the twilight of the gods, they would wake up in the morning and they'd go out to the battlefield and they would fight in the fields all day, and when you died, you'd just be dead, and then in the evening you would be resurrected, and you'd go back into Odin's hall and you'd drink mead and feast and party all night long, and then the next morning you do it all again, and rinse and repeat until Ragnarok.
It's interesting. I mean, that's afterlife is, to each their own.
Right.
Every time you say Valkyrie, I'm not gonna lie, and this is probably gonna make me terrible, but I always think of Shira, Princess of Power.
You know what? She kind of has that look, though. She does.
And I'm talking 80s Shira, not the new Netflix reboot, which, again,
I haven't seen it. So, yeah.
I'll keep my opinions to myself right now. But I grew up with it, so I'm like,
It's hard. There's that fine line with nostalgia on whether you're going to ruin it or really embrace it. But yeah, I think it's that winged helm.
It is.
It's that winged helm, which
that's totally what it is.
Yeah.
That's why because I think, when you see pictures of Valkyries, that's you see the I don't know, I always say Icarus rings, but it's the wings on the helm or the it's very...
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a very common image of a Valkyrie to call up. So, yeah.
Yeah. I just always thought it was... I don't know. It's interesting because Mythos is so interesting because there's so many layers of it that you can just keep peeling and peeling and peeling, and you'll never actually get to the core. And then you go, okay, we get to the almost there, and then, but wait, this version, and you're back where... It's interesting because, even with the crime stuff, there's really... there's a lot to it, but it's solved or it's not, and here's why, where it doesn't go down generations and different cultures and different, and it's fascinating because I know you could really delve into it, and I think that's why we do these podcasts, is so that you are able to give people
get in a little bit more.
Yeah.
And even with true crime, in a sense, I don't, even when you're in court and you're, the prosecutor is telling their own version.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we're ever we're not at the point in our society where we can know 100% what the truth of that situation is, barring there being, video and audio footage. And even then, that's not going to speak to the person's motives or their state of mind. That it's both sides. It's both the prosecution and the defense are weaving their own tales, which then become part of, just look at the OJ case. It's just a mythos of American culture.
Well, that and the fact that you're essentially selling a story to the jury, whether it be true or not. And I don't know, there's a lot of those courtroom drama, not what was it? Making a Murderer was one, where you kind of make your own speculation, and then there was the staircase.
Yes, that one was good.
Yeah, and that one was interesting because people got real into that case of whether or not yes or no he killed the wife. Yeah, and then there was the owl theory where they said an owl did it, and it's I think what's interesting regardless is that when you leave it kind of open, it causes sparks a conversation. And it's interesting to hear that every single person is going to have their own opinion on it based on their own personal experiences. And, I think a lot of it goes with the mythos too, where you're well, I don't feel that was a smart thing to do, or,
exactly. Why'd they do that?
Maybe you should have read that to danger sign and you did it,
Right.
So it's just really interesting. And I think that's what makes this fun to do. And one thing we don't ever talk about on the podcast is when we write our stories, we come up with who we'd like to discuss or stories we want to go through. And what's funny is we end up finding those common bridge without really knowing, because a lot of times we don't present each other's stories until the day we record.
Exactly. I'm in a spoiler. No, okay, I won't.
Wait,
I won't.
Okay,
episode 3.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I want to? Okay, go ahead.
Well, just a little bit of a spoiler. So, in episode 3, which I think we've released the title of by now, the music played on, lived on.
This is the worst. Okay, first of all, guys, like, this is the worst thing, because episode 3's title we say wrong constantly, and I think we finally just wrote it down somewhere, which we don't have in front of us.
Right. Of course not, because preparation is next to godliness, and we're not there.
Not Valkyries yet.
Yeah, I'm not Odin.
But anyway, so music.
So the music played on. I think it's the music played on. Whatever it is,
this
you guys.
Is terrible.
Yeah, we'll know.
Kristen, edit this out.
But Kim was reading her cold open for the first time, and she mentions the name of the underworld a specific mythos. And in my myth, the character story that I'm telling goes to that underworld.
I remember you got super excited.
I was super excited because I hadn't written my lead in from her crime to my myth yet, and so I was like, oh, this is the perfect lead in. And I just it is kind of like that. Like, Kim will give me usually a name, basically of who she's writing about, and then like a main point. Like with Alfreda's story, I knew it was fire, and that's all I knew. I usually assume that there's a murder, based on the fact that it's murder. It's murder and myths. So I usually assume that there's a murder, and then I usually get like a 1 or 2 word kind of bit about the story. So
I love because we have a Google Doc, and I always put like description, and she'll be like, the fucking say? What does that say?
Like, all right, cool. I gotta find a myth that has to deal with this now. All right. So I think it's kind of fun because like, I don't know. I mean, the list that we have, I don't think I know except for maybe 2 or 3 on there, and 2 of them were suggestions that I gave you.
I think so, and it's. I think for me, like, I don't want to cover like the big cases, like Zodiac and Bundy right now is real hot. It's weird to say that, but the case is hot, and everyone's real into it with the Netflix and the new movies coming out. I feel like we all know the story. I can't do them any more justice than they've already been done. So I think it's just trying to find maybe something you guys haven't heard, and maybe something you have heard, and then maybe hopefully give you some new info. But
do you want to take a little break before we delve into week 2?
Yes.
Okay.
This is where you'll put elevator music.
I will put elevator music, yes. And we're back.
I was like, that was great. That was forever. Okay, so in episode 2, Rub-a-Dub-Dub, thanks for the grub.
Yeah. It was a great title.
It is such a great title. I'm gonna I can't give credit that we did it. We had someone else like, just, you should name it this, and it stuck, and it was appropriate for a cannibal episode.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
We had a couple different things going on here. One, we had Isa Sagawa, and Sagawa is a walking among us legitimate cannibal.
Yeah.
What was interesting about this case was that he knew that it wasn't okay, but he knew he had like a hunger thing. And what's interesting is there's multiple cases of cannibals, and apparently if you really want to go into the dark web of things, and I can say I didn't go there, obviously, to look at this stuff, but
like,
through
someone
other
check her browser history.
No, do not look at my browser history. It's in my will to delete that. That is your job to get rid of that browser history.
I'm very well aware. I mean, come on, guys. We have a true crime podcast.
Dude, the analytics from my phone to my Amazon account is really getting weird.
Creepy.
Yeah. But apparently, through Reddit and a few other things that I've read, is there's essentially a dark web wanted forum for people that are interested in cannibalizing or being cannibalized.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole application process, and I mean, it was weird. But that goes into another true crime story that I chose not to cover. Oh, it was a whole thing, and I just, it's that whole what in the fuck, because I think to myself, like, what is even on that application?
I don't want to know. I mean, I guess, in theory, I'd want to know, like, do you have any communicable diseases? I mean, I don't know. Whatever, like, the human version of, like, trichomoniasis is, I wouldn't want that.
I wonder, okay, now I don't want to, like, make fun of it, but I'm like, is there a food grade?
Right.
In our state, there's, like, a food grade. Like, you don't eat at a place that has, like, a D or C, for example, but an A, chances are pretty good you're not going to get, like, both ends situation when you eat there.
Right. Yeah.
But
it's like, you're a marathon runner. You're a little too lean. Not enough marbling going on there.
No. See, and
it's weird. It's weird to think about.
Like,
yeah.
What was interesting about reading this, that one, it was, you almost have this feel for him because he's, doesn't feel good about himself. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's ugly. He knows that he's small and weird, and that doesn't think that people will like him, or,
right.
that he wasn't going to be able to find a life partner due to him being, the way he looked. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, that's so sad. But then you're like, no. He, like, killed and ate somebody. And the thing was sad was it's like, it was an innocent person who's befriended this, gave him a chance, if you will, wanted to have a friendship with him, had a friendship with him, hung out casually, and,
it's like this thing you're so worried about not having, that you became so preoccupied with this need to consume a human for whatever reason that it was almost like blinders on. Like, mm-hmm. it overpowered the fact that, hey, that thing that you thought you needed, you actually got.
Yeah. And there was the quote that he made that was like, he knew his entire world was going to just mm-hmm. shatter when he pulled the trigger. It just kind of resonated the whole thing for me, because he had this overwhelming urge that just compressed actual thought, morals, and he knew mm-hmm. it was wrong. He knew that it was all gonna just crumble the second he did that, and it just is unfortunate. It was just like, I don't know. I don't want to say, like, he was sad that she died, but then he was happy he got to eat a human at the same. Yeah, and it's that weird. I don't even know how to explain it.
It's like polyvalent logic, where two things can be true at the same time, and even if they're contradictory, it doesn't make either one less true.
And see, the thing is, he was not, I mean, by educational standards, I mean, he went to school. I think he has a PhD in literature. Yeah. I mean, he wasn't he knew he had awareness, and the mm-hmm. fact that he was found not guilty, and I don't know, like, judging from what I've read, it seemed like a lot, because he was a citizen of Japan, but he was student visa essentially in France. Mm-hmm. There was a whole thing of, like, the paperwork being, not getting to where it needed to be in time. He was getting, like, a celebrity status, and, from this article that had come out, it was just too much attention, and it was just seemed like, I don't know, it got dropped somewhere. And I think, like, because there's no justice, and he's walking around living, breathing, going about his life and whatever, and the poor girl's family never got resolution, mm-hmm. and they never really, from what I could find, they never really talked about her family and her, I'm sure there's a lot of anger there. Yeah. They lost their family member, and he's just out living his life and being like, I'd like people to eat me, or, like, he was welcoming, like, a dating ad essentially. And that article that I had quoted was a Vice.com article, which you can read. It's a really lengthy interview with him, and you read it and you're like, oh, he's smart. Oh wait, like, it just,
here, like, it is.
Here it is. There it is. Yeah. It's this really, I don't know. I'm sure there's,
I just like how he's, like, a little bit picky. He's like, beautiful women only.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be judgmental or anything, but I'm like, I think if someone's going to willingly be like, yeah, you can eat me, or yeah, I'm going to drown you in my saliva.
That's a lot of saliva.
It's a lot
I
of
thought
saliva.
about that, and I just am like, oh, it's all warm and
That's
weird.
gross. No, thank you. But I'm just like, I don't think you're going to get like, America's Next Top Model applying for this,
You could always check that cannibal Tinder type
Well, can you imagine like how you're like, there's all these like Instagram famous people like, oh, that would, that would like
Well, I know. I mean,
shoot that.
He had a type.
15 minutes of fame up there.
He had a type. I mean, he knew what he was attracted to, and just I don't know if it was that need of like needing it inside him.
Maybe almost like validation. Like, I'm so little and scrawny and awkward looking, and I'm never gonna find love or a true connection, that if I could get this ideal image of beauty that I have in my mind, it would almost justify these feelings that I have. Like, I would maybe prove myself wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know when you look at other famous cannibal cases, like obviously Hannibal Lecter wasn't real,
right?
But but it's oh my god, I've spoiled it. I'm sorry. I just told the ending. Darth Vader's Luke's dad. Let's just keep it going. I know. But it's, he had justified reasons why he ate people. Yeah. And I mean, again, he's fictional, but he was a doctor. Remember? I mean, he was,
he was intelligent. He was,
And then we had, like, when I was comparing, like, Hannibal Lecter, I think it was the Donner Party, and then the soccer team. Yeah. The thing is with the
soccer or rugby? I thought they were rugby.
Rugby. Yeah. Oh god, this is horrible. Kristen, edit that out. But in the Donner Party, I was reading kind of extensively on that, because they didn't just like get lost and eat people. I mean, they had gone through, people were, they hit that winter in the Sierra Nevadas, and I mean, that winter is harsh. We're talking like feet of snow. Right. They have, I mean, it's real bad up there. But
it's like 2019, and we still just like a week or two ago, like you could not drive up. It was like just closed, and it's like we have all of this technology. It's 2019. They're still closing roadways. Like, can you imagine? It's like covered wagon times.
Oh, I couldn't imagine. And
there's no Uber Eats.
Oh. DoorDash. So, I mean, it was like they had literally eaten everything they could. I mean, they were eating like the buffalo hide off the wagons, and they were eating like leather off.
Boil their shoes.
They ate. It said on there that they ate the leather that they had, like, because they knew they could boil it down and make like something with it, and whether it was shoes or their clothing. And someone was talking about like the tendons for the tents, like to pull tight.
Oh yeah, those strings that you.
They literally ate everything they could, and then it was like someone was frostbitten or they had died, and they were like, I guess at first it sounded like, and again, don't quote me on this, but they had kind of just ate the guy and didn't tell anyone they were eating a person, but they needed the food. Like, literally took someone out to pasture, and they just didn't come back. And some of the guys would go off to go try to find help or food, and then that guy just didn't come back, and I mean, it was pretty horrific. And then with the plane crash, I remember they made a movie on that called Alive. Yeah, and it was horrible. Like, I don't know, I mean, it was like that whole, this is a last resort, we need to, but I couldn't imagine, like, you knew that person,
I mean,
I just
kind of the mindset you would have to be into, and there's definitely like a huge distinction between survival cannibalism and fetishism, I guess would be the cannibalism.
That's the thing that was weird, because it's like you had like Donner and the Uruguay flight. There was no option.
No,
I mean. Again,
it was that or you were going to die yourself.
I'm like, we can comment on this on the website or, on Twitter. But, Sagawa, Conscious Mind, wasn't in a survival situation. Right. This goes into like that whole, like you were saying, like fetish situation, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. So.
I mean, at the very minimum, there's a huge moral difference. I think, between the two.
Oh, like I'm going to, if I don't make it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I couldn't imagine the mindset, like thinking like they, this person would be okay with me doing this so that I can live.
Right. I would be okay in a survival situation.
Don't look at me like that.
I'm just saying.
She's giving me eyes. I've been working out. I get it. But, no, I don't know. It's that weird.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and I'm just going to lay it out there because I've been wanting to say this, but I think that we need there needs to be a musical on this.
Well, I mean, there was, you mean other than Cannibal the Musical from Trey Parker and Matt Stone?
I forgot all about that.
I love that movie so much. It's so hilarious. Have a Spadoinkle Day.
Oh my God.
Is that right? Did I get that right? I'm like calling back from I don't know.
You are so right on that. I forgot all about that. Oh my God. How did I not quote that?
I don't know.
Next time.
How did I not think to tell you to quote that till just now? Well, because we were mashing up Alexander Hamilton and
Alexander Cannibal. That's it. You just been waiting for me to say it.
I just waited for you to say it. Yeah, that was a thing that happened.
It was like, you gotta stop. We need to record this.
Let's just get to business now.
You can buy our album by signing up on our Patreon to hear the entire version of Alexander Cannibal. I'm just kidding.
That's not a thing.
Hey, if you get enough comments on Twitter, I might make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, Lynn Manuel Miranda, if you want to help us co-write that, we'd be down.
Lynn, are you listening?
We need some lottery tickets.
Oh God, yeah. Anyway, that's.
So yeah, it was actually, I found much more difficult to find stories of cannibalism in mythology than I thought it was going to be at first. I mean, at first when it was like cannibalism, I'm like, I know a little bit. There's there are some verses in Egyptian quote unquote mythology about a king that is basically in the afterlife and cannibalizing. But I'm like, that's, it's really just a couple of stanzas. It's not really a story per se.
It's the implication.
It's the implication, right? which in Egyptian mythology, that would have been a huge, really, 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 really very bad thing.
Like, we don't eat people bad thing, or
we don't eat people bad thing. Like, that's just not a... you don't destroy or desecrate dead bodies as a horrible bad thing.
They would hate my version of our podcast.
It would make them uncomfortable at the very minimum. But, there's no, ancient Egyptians still... Not that I know. There could be, a mummy situation going on, where there's just, a ancient pharaoh still alive.
Oh God.
He's cursing us right now. He's got his Waz scepter going, "These girls stop."
His name is Brendan Fraser and he's in Canada. I'm just kidding. Is he in Canada? I think he's in Canada. I don't know.
But yeah, so it was a little bit more difficult than I had anticipated to find a true story of cannibalism. And of course, I'm not going to say I'm never ever going to delve into the Greek or Roman mythology, because that's just not true.
God, I was hoping you weren't gonna say I'm never ever gonna not eat a person. I got nervous again for a minute. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to eat a person unless it's a real situation of survival and I'm going to die if I don't.
Okay, disclaimer, it would totally be me, because we are never, whenever we go out and do something, it's always just us. And
yeah.
Oh, don't again, making with the eyes. But
yeah, so just blowing right past that, and on to the story of the five brothers.
This is why I'm not allowed to have nice things.
So yeah, I was able to, find kind of as part of the coyote cycle, which is a number of myths from a North American tribe that they're called the Nez Perce, but that just, I think in France that translates to pierced nose.
Interesting. I'd have to.
Because they have nose piercings. But they're in their language, and I'm probably mispronouncing this. I'm not in any way a linguist, but the Nimi Poo Kim's hiding her face because I'm saying poo.
Oh my God, she knows me too well. I'm like, I can't look at you. I'm sorry. I'm so immature. I'm so immature.
But, as part of their coyote cycle, I came across this myth of these 5 brothers that go out on a hunting trip, and one is like, and I feel bad because it's like a complete accident for this guy. It's not like he goes out and is like, oh, I'm gonna slice off my own finger and eat that. It's just like
shit happens.
He's I don't want to say lazy, but probably not paying as close of attention as he should have, because he cut himself with the knife that he's using to butcher this deer.
Did you mention, like, if it was like the end of the day, like he was maybe in a hurry to go home, you know what I mean? Like, you get rushed, or sometimes, like,
well, they had been hunting, and then he didn't kill shot this deer.
Like, you're comfortable with your craft, so you're like, I'm confident, I can do this.
I almost think it was a matter of him being tired, because again, he didn't kill shot this deer. Mm-hmm. The deer takes off running. He's running after it. I mean, they run down into a canyon, and you just have to think of like how proficient a deer is at being able to navigate wilderness and down into a canyon versus what a human being is able to do.
Deers are dicks, though.
They are. I don't like them.
Sorry if anyone likes deer, but they are.
Yeah. And they're gross, and they carry ticks and ugh. Anyway. So yeah, I think it's a little bit a matter of just, maybe a long day of hunting. I didn't kill shot this deer. I had to run after this deer. I'm tired. Mm-hmm. I'm hungry, and I'm just butchering this thing. And he probably was in a hurry to just get it done. I mean, he obviously was in a hurry, because it's not mentioned in the story that he stops to make a cooking fire. It's possible it was just like the liver or something that you might eat raw. But he definitely eats some part of this deer kind of in the midst of this butchering. And it happened to be a piece that
it's like a snack on the way home.
Yeah, his own blood touched. And it's that kind of like, I've consumed human flesh, and now it's like a Saisagawa, that hunger. It's almost a compulsion that he wants to, Sagawa wants to do it again. And it's like this, that's kind of reflected in this myth as well. It's like, I've had this taste of my own flesh.
Yes,
and I am just so overcome with this hunger that I am now slicing pieces of my own body off and consuming them until he's, basically a skeleton, a bloody skeleton who for some reason kept his intestines to use as a lasso, which the imagery of that, just let that image sit with you for just a second. A bloody human skeleton. There's probably still like little pieces of like tendons still on, it's just kind of like he did a raggedy job of hacking himself up, and he's just got this rope of bloody intestines, and he's coming after you with it. That's just, I think, a little terrifying.
See, what's funny about this whole thing, like you're talking about, like, oh, he got the blood and he got this thing. I'm sorry, I totally had to Google this while you were saying it, but it makes me think of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's an episode where, if anyone hasn't seen this, you need to go watch this, but it was an episode in the 4th season called Manhunters, where Frank convinces Charlie and Dee, 2 of the characters, that the meat they're eating was human, because they kept stealing meat out of his fridge, and so he's like, it's human meat, so like if you don't, trying to scare them off, but then the whole episode is basically them trying to find someone to eat. So
because they're so like, that like, was delicious.
Like they got the taste for human meat. So it always makes me think of that. So I'm like, I guess it's possible.
I guess. Well, again, it's just like that compulsion. It's like, and I think in mythology, at least, this is don't eat other people, but it is. It's almost like a tale of those compulsions. Like you do something bad, you do something that's immoral or evil, and you're going to almost be compelled to continue that behavior. It's like, don't go down that rabbit hole, because you're just going to want to go further, and you're not going to be able to get back out into a place of living within the realm of a normal society within those rules.
It's interesting because you think about it too. It's like that same feeling that drives that, like I need this, I have to have it, like nothing satisfying that hunger.
Yeah.
I think we've all known people that have like consumed themselves with like one thing.
Yes.
And like I know personally we had friends that went down a complete rabbit hole of just like buying and purchasing, consuming and doing all this stuff, and it was just like for no other reason except to have it.
Yeah.
And it was just
that gratification, that short-term gratification of, oh no, I have this thing. Oh, well, I bought it, that wore off. I need that feeling. It's like chasing the dragon, man.
Whoa. Hello 90s. But yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, you're right. It's like, again, we can't obviously relate to the eating people, but it's that same, like everyone's had that feeling of like shopping, oh, I need to shop, I need to eat. It's like that compulsion that nothing fills that void.
Yeah.
So he couldn't find another human. So he's like resorting to eating himself.
Yeah. It was like that was the most immediate closest thing was, I am here, there's no one else around. Okay, I need to fill this void within myself. And so he does so by consuming himself.
And the fact that he used his own intestines as lasso, I mean, if you think about it, of all the parts of the human body, like those intestines, not only are they long, very, very viable. Like, I mean, I think it would, again, I'm not a cannibal, but like, I would think it would take a long time to chew through that. So you just give up on it.
He was practical.
Like
practical
tripe?
cannibal.
Like tripe?
Maybe. I mean, I don't.
It's been some time since I've had tripe. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like he picks the one part of the body, whoever had written that, I don't want to say author, but whoever told that story had to have known that was such a vital organ.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
It's pretty interesting. Well, and then you kind of have the everyone returns home from hunting, and they realize the brother is gone, and so kind of within the duty of the tribe is to our member of our tribe is gone or missing. We've got to go out and find him, and so the whole tribe goes out, and then the second oldest brother comes across him and falls victim. The cannibal brother now is like, oh, here's something else that can fit, that I can try to fill this void with, and he ends up like using that intestine rope and lassoing his brother and tying him up while he's slicing pieces of meat off and just having himself a grand old feast.
Do you think like, okay, so when you were telling this story, and I know it wasn't just one brother, it was what? How many brothers?
Well, there were 5 brothers total.
5 brothers?
The first one was a cannibal.
So
the next 3 got eaten
right.
by the cannibal, and then the youngest, the 5th brother, is the one that's like, was smart enough to like say, hey, Meadowlark, what's going on? And then, still goes out and looks for the brother though.
But the thing was, it's funny about that. You're telling this story to me, and I'm hearing it for the first time, and I'm like, okay, 1 brother, no big deal. 2 brother, I'm like, oh, come on. And it was like 3rd brother, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I mean, I don't know. And I think what's weird is like, did they ever say like if he fed them like to themselves, like turn them to cannibals?
No, it's pretty clear that he's eating them just himself, and their bones are piling up.
Jeez.
He's adding his brother's bones to the pile that's already there.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. Now, had he fed some of his own flesh to his brothers, he could have raised an army of bloody skeletons with intestine rope to like take out the entire tribe. So let's be glad that he was so full of this hunger that he just had to fill himself with it and not go about creating an undead army.
And do you think though, like, he didn't leave the area because he knew they would come looking for him? I mean, that's a smart ass cannibal, because he's like, that food's just gonna come walking over this guy.
I think that's really is, and I think that's part of because there was such importance in family and in tribe, and you had to stay together, and there's this responsibility and this duty. I mean, you're talking about times when, in these, I hate to use the term hunter-gatherers because that's so cliche and not even really the proper nomenclature anymore, but where you certain people within the group had certain tasks, and it wasn't just for your own benefit. It was for the benefit of everyone. It was a little bit much more egalitarian, I feel like, than we are right now. Even today, it's like, okay, you're probably going to do something to take care of yourself and maybe your immediate family, but you're not thinking about doing something that's going to, most of us, that's going to benefit, your community as a whole, at least you might on a small level, but you're not on a huge, large level. You're not going out and saying, I'm going to hunt this deer and it's going to feed everyone in the community.
Right.
You might go out and hunt the deer and it's going to be for you and your family, and you might give a little bit to your neighbors, but it's the wealth isn't as spread. There's definitely we're in a capitalist society. Where here it wasn't. So I think there was such this, each member of this tribe was important and valuable and helped the tribe to survive, that they had to keep. There was a duty to keep sending. So we're looking at it today going like, okay, dude, stop sending freaking brothers out there. They're not coming back. Clearly something bad is happening. Like, just let it be. But they, and as time goes on, they're losing more. I mean, these were 5 men, and their value to that society must have been very, very great. That they are like, we have to try to figure out what happened to them and get them back if we can.
And the thing is, it's interesting, and again, I don't know if they went into it, whether or not they were prominent members, or if it just was that mentality of like, these guys are our main hunters, and now one has gone missing, so some shit had to have gotten to him. Yeah. So they were like sending out their people to like find out maybe what was eating, or they're not coming back.
Yeah.
Maybe they're injured, maybe they're hurt. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah, that they didn't. I mean, there's nothing in the literature that I read to indicate what status they had within the tribe. It is said that the tribe's members did feel like something, like maybe they were injured. And it's and maybe the other ones were injured trying to help the first brother back, and so they kept sending people out until we got to the last and youngest brother, who had the foresight to ask. This is a time when animals can talk. Those the embodiments of the spirits, and so he asks Meadowlark, who's like, hey, have you seen my brother? And she's like, nah, not only have I seen your brother, but let me tell you this tale. And even then, I think there's just this, I don't know. Had that been me, I would have been like, cool, Meadowlark, thanks for that knowledge. I don't need to know where that flint is. I'm just going to go back and, you seem like a trusty bird. I'm just going to go back to my tribe and just report that. But, he's like, no, I have this duty to see this out. These are my brothers. I need to. And there's trickster elements at play in a lot of myths. So I don't know enough about, Meadowlark's overarching role in the coyote cycle to know whether that was, maybe because she has some trickster qualities. But, definitely the youngest brother felt like I have to go out. But he went prepared. He listened to what she said. He took her advice. He tied those pieces of flint to his legs. Mm-hmm. And then when his brother, caught him, he was able to get free and go back to the tribe and say, hey, yo, this is bad.
Can you imagine though, like if the last brother was like, I never liked my brothers. I don't give a shit. Like, let's let him go out there. And not only that, but like he trusted a bird.
Yeah.
I mean, do you really trust birds? I mean, he had the opportunity to not actually trust this bird.
That's true. I mean, I think
out of all the things though, he's gonna trust a bird.
Trust a bird. Well, and then later the tribe trusts Crane.
Dude, the bird is the word. That is the moral of all these myths. The bird is the word. So if a bird's talking to you, you listen to that bird.
That's funny.
They're the word. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Write that down. That's a title of a podcast. The bird is the word.
Now you have to find a murder involving a bird.
A bird murder?
A bird murder.
Uh-oh.
The owl from the staircase.
No, we're not doing the staircase. Oh my God, no. Oh my gosh, this is, no. So, bird is the word. That's what we came down. That's the moral of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, Crane did end up saving them because he kicked older brother off that cliff. I think the worst part for me, though, like, I get all of the brothers having to go out and feeling that duty and that sense of we need to try to see what happened. But when youngest brother comes back and is like, hey, my older brother, he's a cannibal now. He's just nothing but like a skeleton with this bloody intestine rope lasso that he caught all the other brothers with.
The smell alone.
We need to move. And everyone in the tribe is like, yeah, we do, because he's going to come after us, and this is going to be bad, and I don't know how to kill a walking skeleton, so let's just all move. But his wife is like, no, I think I'll stay. He might come back. He might be all right. And you know what? I'll keep our young child here with us. That to me was like the most, how do I justify it? I mean, how do I justify that? I mean, we now have firsthand knowledge of what evil had befallen this dude. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay. And of course, he comes back and he's like, oh, that baby looks pretty tasty. I think I want to eat it.
Which is weird because there's another tie into my story, because Isawa had seen a classmate's thigh and was like, ooh, I want in on that chubby baby leg. Like, people say that sometimes, like, oh, I just want to, like, look at those chubby baby legs. And I'm like...
It's creepy, right?
Yeah, I was giving her shifty eyes. You can't see it, but I mean, I was like... That's the first thing I think. I'm like, are you going to eat the baby? Like, are you, like...
Why are you associating that with food?
Well, that's weird. But it's that thing of, like, consuming something you love?
Yeah, I don't know. I have never looked at a baby's leg and been like, I want to eat that baby leg.
I don't understand it. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand it. I mean, there's a bunch of, like, remember there's that... What is that snow cannibal thing called? I'm trying to, like, look it up, and this is terrible, because she's like, why are you on your phone?
Snow cannibal?
No, it was the one where, like, you eat, like, he eats your flesh, but then he's... Oh, my God, this is gonna... Here, you have to edit this out.
Are you talking about the Wendigo?
Wendigo! Yes. Because that was, like, the weird thing where, like, it's, like, 2D, but so if it turns aside, you never see it.
You can't see it? Like Slender Man?
Oh my God, what is wrong with you? I have to walk to my car later.
I'll walk you outside.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that same feeling of eating that chubby baby leg, and I'm gonna say it with finger quotes, like, you hear people say that a lot. Like, I've heard people say that about babies all the time, and I just don't understand, like, why you all want to eat a baby.
I don't get it.
But it's at that same drive of, like, she wanted to stay for...
I don't know. For her husband, it was... I mean, I get it. Like, you probably took some type of marriage vows to, like, death do you part. But I don't think a bloody skeleton that's animated... That's, like, death has occurred.
Okay,
death has occurred.
They had gone, like, the tribe's like...
The tribe is like, okay, cool, you want to stay, stay.
But here's the thing. Obviously, that area was plentiful with food.
Yeah.
Probably a water source. Something for them to have settled there.
Yeah,
So they just left that shit there for someone else to settle, and then the Wendigo's born. I mean, honestly, like, think about it.
No, I mean, I think they packed up. I think they packed up their...
No, but they leave. Another tribe moves in and goes... Look at this beautiful forest area with the deer and the birds, and, like, we have a water source and all this stuff.
We didn't know that.
Check down the hill.
Right.
And bam, it's the cycle all over again, and we have a Wendigo. Oh my God, I've just, like, had an epiphany. But, like, they left it there for someone else.
That's true. That's true. They didn't take care of this thing that had created and was now in the forest, and they're just like, we're out.
So... Is the moral of the story, 1, bird is the word, 2, don't play with your food, and 3, someone else will clean up after you. I mean, I just don't... They left it for someone else.
They did. Well, I mean, the skeleton does end up finding where the new tribe is.
Whoa.
Yeah. Remember, so the mom, he's like, I want to eat that baby. And she's all, you know what? The baby's kind of dirty. Let me take it down to the river, clean it up first. It'll be better that way. And then she bounces. She makes the spoon turn into the canoe, and she floats down the river, and she makes the willows answer for her when he calls out for his wife. But he does. He ends up...
So why didn't he eat her and then the baby. Because, like...
Because that chubby baby leg, Kim, it was just too enticing.
I don't get it.
Like,
I still don't get it.
Get that chubby baby leg. I can't let this baby get any older, man. I need to eat this baby now.
It's like a 12-pound baby. I don't...
Right. I don't know.
I'm shook.
Yeah, he came and he found the new tribe, and that's when they got Crane. They, like, put Crane up on the hill, the only way down into, the cliff, on the only way down to their new... None of you saw that, but I almost spilt a drink on the mini recorder and caught it last second.
And that would have been the end of this.
Yeah, no more podcasts.
So wait, Crane is obviously a crane, right?
A crane,
like,
yeah,
okay,
right.
I didn't know if it was like
someone's
his name
yeah.
or if it was like a legitimate crane.
Yes, a legitimate crane.
So they leave him there.
So Crane says, "I'm gonna hide up at this.
Okay.
I'm gonna hide up at the top of this cliff. I'm gonna bury myself so you don't see my big crane legs." And then the skeleton walks by and he kicks the skeleton off the cliff. And apparently that's all you needed to do to kill this skeleton.
So it would have been interesting though if it's like, okay, like the bird and the skeleton could have gotten in on this together. Because if you think about it, like, bird's hiding, right?
Right.
This is my hands are at my eyes so you can't see me.
Yeah.
But like the bird's hiding and then people are like, oh, let's settle in this beautiful forest, blah, 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 blah. And they come walking over and that crane would like slowly creep up and be like, hey, there's a skeleton down that hill. And like, they'd be like, oh, bird, you're ridiculous. And he's like, oh no, you don't want to go down there. But they do anyway. And the skeleton's like, he's rubbing his skeleton hands together. It's all clacking.
Right.
But like, they could have,
But what would the bird get out of that?
He could pick off the bones.
Are cranes carnivorous?
Can't trust birds. They do what they want.
That's true. Well, this bird had the human's best interest in heart.
Can't birds eat meat?
Yeah, some birds do, but not all birds.
They eat chicken? That's weird. Okay, this is a whole other
Wait,
reaction.
maybe all birds eat meat. I don't know. I
Isn't
don't know
that
enough. I don't know
cannibalistic?
if birds eat other birds. Yes.
So if a bird... Okay, this is gonna, like, edit this
it's
out.
not a... I think when you're talking about non-sentient creatures... And I don't want to say non-sentient, but, like... I don't think that you can say if a vulture eats a heron, that's cannibalism.
Okay.
I don't think so. Probably from the strictest definition of cannibalism, it probably is. But I think what we're more talking about is that moralistic, like why it's so, we don't eat other humans.
There's no chubby baby bird legs, that's why.
Right. Why is it that? Not that I'm advocating.
We're going back to this baby leg thing, because apparently you and I don't have this tendency.
I'm usually not...
And you know what's weird is when people say it, like, I don't know, like, okay, I have kids, but I've never thought of my chubby baby thighs, like, ever. And when people do it, they do that, like, Cruella de Vil thing where they get their hands in, like, these little spider things, and they're like, ooh, those chubby baby legs! And they, like, do the fingers, and it's, like, almost that, like, fried chicken thing where they're, like, licking their fingertips, like, over it. And I just am like...
That.
And I don't know.
This is a Hansel and Gretel situation.
Right?
Like,
this bugs us now. We're going to have to do a whole thing about chubby baby legs.
Yeah.
That's the title of this, chubby baby legs.
That's the title of this reaction video. Chubby baby legs. Reaction video. Reaction.
That's chubby baby legs just getting to you.
Ugh.
Oh, God. This is
weird. It's just weird. Like,
but I think what we're trying to say is that the same urge exists. Like, it's that compulsion.
Yeah.
It's the compulsion of whatever your brain chemistry is saying, like chubby baby leg, human thigh, your brother, like whatever. Something is going to give you a response that makes you feel good.
Yeah, you're going to get that gratification. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
I don't know. I'm shook.
Cannibalism.
Yeah, seriously. I just don't.
Well, I think that wraps things up.
I think so. Yeah, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to correct us on anything, want to have a conversation about people, if you want to justify to us why it's okay to be like, ooh, chubby baby legs. You know what? No, we don't care.
We don't want people to share, like, their thought. I don't know. You can share your thoughts.
Yeah, share your thoughts.
Legs.
Yeah, I guess. If you're one of those people,
Like, I would like to know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I want to be clear. I don't really think those people want to consume those baby legs. I think it's just like a cute little thing they think's cute to say.
but would you? No, I'm just kidding. Don't answer that.
Please don't answer that. I don't want to have to report anyone to the authorities because I think that they might be a cannibal.
But is this okay. Is this the same feeling of like of Mice and Men with Lenny and the Rabbits? It's like, oh, it's so cute. Or like you get that feeling.
Like Elmira from Tiny Toons. Love you and squeeze you.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah. It might be.
I had her. I have to give credit, but I heard on another podcast about like what your brain chemistry does to like smother things. It's like this weird like love fear response. It's bizarre, but anyway, chubby baby legs.
Yeah. But anything else you guys want to talk about? And any questions about the stories we told in the first 2 episodes? We're on Twitter at Murder and Myths, Instagram Murder and Myths, our website murderandmyths.com.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Murder and Myths, you can usually find us.
Yeah.
We are really active on Twitter though,
Yeah.
and so we love having conversations with other podcasts.
Yeah.
Our people, the listeners. So please, like, don't hesitate to drop
reach out,
a
say hi.
a tweet.
You'll know Kim because she signs her tweets with a knife. And
Maybe a chubby baby leg now.
if you find a chubby baby leg emoji, I'm shutting the internet down.
Like, why does this exist?
Right? And I sign my tweets with a little book for mythology. We do have a Patreon page, which this, you can you'll find this on our Patreon page. We have exclusive digital content available for our patrons there, as well as some like cool physical merchandise that you get if you want to sign up.
And
It's not a chubby baby leg.
I may have found a chubby baby leg emoji.
Okay.
So anyway.
She will be the only one using that. So if you see anyone signing tweets on our Twitter with a baby leg, it's Kim. Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to us. We'll be back next week with episode 3.
Don't do this to ourselves. Don't do it.
The music lived on. The music played on.
This is embarrassing. We don't know the name of our own episode 3, Kristen.
I think we changed it a couple of times.
We changed it a lot,
Yeah.
and it is The Music Lived On.
The music lived on. Yeah, I think that's what I said the first time.
I cheated. I just totally pulled up the Google Doc.
Well, that's what we should have done like 20 minutes ago. When
And
we
not
were debating
embarrass
it.
ourselves?
Yeah. But yeah, so join us next week for episode 3. The music lived on. And as always,
Come for the murder.
and stay for the myths.
You should have said stay for the chubby baby legs.